Flosstube, it is Tuesday, June 24th, 2020, and I am Michelle from Michelle's Romantic Tangle, and it has only been 6 days since my last video at Flosstube. I try to space them at least a week apart, but the house is quiet. I have time to film, and I have got stuff done this week that I am so excited to show you. So I told you last week I was all excited about Mad Bluebird, and I was kind of dreading the stump he sits on. Well, that lasted about 2 hours after filming the video, because here on his belly there are two symbols on the chart that aren't that similar. For someone who was paying attention, they wouldn't be similar, but I messed up. And so a whole bunch of his belly right there should be white, and it's not. And I don't want to pick it out. I just don't. So remember how last time I talked about how I was stitching on his belly to avoid going back and doing the fractional stitches around his eyes? Now apparently I'm going to stitch on his fence post instead of going back and fixing his belly. And as long as I write myself a note or something and remember where the problem is and what I have to do to fix it, I could stitch on the stump and finish the stump and backtrack and do the belly. That's not a problem. Or I could pack him away and work on something else for a little while. That is also not a problem. So I pulled out Cuckoo Clock by Riolas, which I love Cuckoo Clocks. I don't have a picture of where I was, so all of this is new. All of this down here is new. I spent a sizable chunk of time on this. Okay, it's 5 hours, a sizable chunk of time. I talked in the last video about how I switch projects every hour or two. Yeah, I said that and then immediately changed my strategy. So I worked on the Cuckoo Clock. It'll look like that when it's done. I love this. And then I picked up the key. I told you last time about the key and the dress, and if you see the thumbnail for my last video, I'll insert it here. I should take progress pictures, but lately I am not taking pictures of anything that I should be taking pictures of. So 6 days ago, all I had was her dress. I had the bottom hem of her dress and the bodice of her dress and maybe half of the dark color filled in on her dress. And I was having fun with her, and I decided maybe if I put the pedal to the metal, I could get her done by the end of the month. So I broke it down how much I'd have to stitch each day for 10 days to make that happen. Then 2 nights passed, and over the course of those 2 nights, I stitched the whole thing. Is she a duck or a goose? I think she's a goose. One of my children tells me she's a peacock. I don't know where that came, if there's a reason they think she's a peacock, or if that was just to contradict their mother. I love her. I adore her. I want to go buy and stitch all of Barbara Anna's patterns at this point. And I'm really eyeballing light, because light might be my next finish. Maybe. Who knows? Literally 20 minutes after I put the last stitches in the key, I pulled out Flowers in a Window. This is a Stone Street Stitchworks freebie. Links in the description below. I always try to do that. And I had, last video, I think I had this corner down here not finished. I finished it. I love it. I love this whole single color pattern thing more than I ever thought I would. So I have been thinking about whether I wanted to do an ink circles project or a long dog samplers project, because I want something big in one color. And then Long Dog Samplers released Pandemic and made up my mind for me. I've got it downloaded. I need to plug the printer back in so that I can start printing it. I have fabric. I got a bunch of skeins of DMC in, shoot, whatever the color that the fox's dress is in light, that's what I want to do it in, and I'm really excited and motivated, but not motivated enough to plug in the printer and start stitching, because when I start stitching it might be hard. That's silly, I know. We went to the library last week for the first time since like the end of February, and that was an experience. They totally shut down early on. And I've been frustrated with that because I'm homeschooling kids, and not having the library was an inconvenience. Then there was enough going on that not having the library was the least of my worries. Now I am at the point where I have just admitted we are never going to have a library. They have contactless curbside pickup that they just started about a week or two ago. We were picking up books that had been on the hold shelf since before March. To pick them up, you have to go online and schedule an appointment. You have to schedule your appointment at least 24 hours before the appointment, and because they're only open Tuesday through Friday, it's tricky. We live 60 miles from the library, so to try to figure out within a 10-minute increment when I can be there to pick up books and then have that 10-minute increment be the point where there is an appointment available, it was tricky. We got the big drawing point was that if I picked up books at the same time, I could return books, and we have had books stacked on my dining room table since February, and some of these books had been checked out 12 weeks or so prior to that, so I want them to take their books back. They can be gone. There can be no more library. Just take your books back, please. We got there to pick up our books, and the way they are doing it is they check out the books to you at some point in advance, put them in a plastic grocery bag, tie the top, put a tamper-proof seal sticker on the side with a piece of paper with your name on it, and put them on a wire rack on the sidewalk. And to return your books, instead of putting them like in the slot in the side of the building, there's a big open bin on the sidewalk. I'm so confused by this. I don't understand. My son says as soon as I got back in the car, he saw someone come out and take the bin inside, all of the books. Oh, and the books then are quarantined for 48 hours before they check them back in. Another gal who was picking up her books in the same 10-minute increment as I was said she had returned books 2 weeks earlier that still hadn't been checked in. So one of the books we returned still shows that it's checked out to us, and I really don't want to pay for that book, but I don't know at this point what. Like I said, I'm almost giving up on the library. It's frustrating. I knew we were dependent on the library, but at this point, frustrating. So we are all in love with Bendy Stitchy's junk journal that she is putting her stuff in, right? I feel like she has given me permission to go through all of my magazines and all of the patterns in my collection and to stitch all the little small random things so I can fill up a book. I kind of want a bigger book with bigger pages so I can do slightly bigger projects. And I was thinking about it, and I have a big book. This rode around in my minivan for like 8 months until I wrecked the minivan and had to get all my stuff out of it. And then it finally came in and up to my sewing room. I want a book like this book. Can't be this book because this is the Ladies' Home Journal Book of Interior Decoration from the mid-1950s. And I love everything about this book. I am totally keeping it for future dollhouse inspiration. I'm not going to tear it up. And this is my mindset right now and how strange things have gotten that I am defending my decision not to cut up a book. But that's okay. The world is full of books and my house is full of books. Then my eyes fell on this. I picked it up at an estate sale, who knows when, for really super cheap. It is a scrapbook. Nobody ever used the scrapbook. I don't think anybody ever breathed on the scrapbook. And the pages are big. I could put the key in my scrapbook. And the only reason that I am even pausing is because I know that the paper in the scrapbook is not acid-free. I don't know over time what it would do to my stitching and my fabric. I don't know if I'm worried about that or not. Because whatever I put it together into, I don't know that I expect it to outlast me. I don't know if I'm going to be sad if the colors, I know on paper it's foxing when the acid does things to it. Don't know what it would be on cross stitch, but I'm deciding if I am okay with the old pages. And oh my God, I love the texture and the color and everything about these pages. From my teeny tiny venture into scrapbooking years ago, I know we're supposed to be all upset about acid-free stuff, but I don't know if I am or not. And the covers are tied together with this lovely string, so I could take out these pages and I could replace them with something that is acid-free. Or I could replace them with like felt or something. And if I replaced them with felt or something, I could use little stitches to anchor my pieces in place. And that might be an idea. I have got so many possibilities for this right now. I know in the sewing room, I've got a huge, huge, huge chunk of wool that I think my dad's mom left behind. Nobody knows where this wool came from. I could felt it and I could make it into pages. I don't know yet. That's a possibility, and I keep swinging back to using it as is. In the meantime, I went back to the thrift store, which is still having their 4 for $1 book sale. I need to stay out of there. And I found this. This is the same edition that I had growing up. Kids' books are 10 for $1. And this one, the binding is gone. So I don't need to feel bad about damaging it or cutting it up. And I thought that I could use the fairy tales with their illustrations for junk journaling. I actually think a fair number of the pages are just not in this book at this point. It's got a big cover. I could use it to make a junk journal, couldn't I? I don't know how to junk journal, so please tell me, couldn't I? And then I got the idea that I could go back to the thrift store and I could just look for books that had big covers that I could take out the pages and put something else in. So this morning we went back to the thrift store and I bought another stack of books, and that's going to be its own video because there's a lot of them. Then we stopped at Goodwill, and at Goodwill I found, it's going to be its own video, but one of the things I found was a wooden box that was for storing silverware in. And it was monogrammed with someone else's initials. And it had the piece across the center to hold the silverware. You could pop that out. If you popped that out, would that not make a wonderful, amazing under the bed box? There was no silverware. It was an empty box. It's screaming to be repurposed, but it wasn't screaming for me to spend $14.95 for it. But I love the idea, and I got thinking I'm going to watch at all the estate sales, and maybe I can find a silverware box to use as an under the bed box for the things that are too big to put in a book. And then my mind wandered a little bit further, and I have a silverware box. This was my grandma's. She left a note in it that it was to go to my daughter. My daughter called me up a couple weeks ago and said, "Mom, I am never going to use this silverware. Do you want it?" You know the answer to that is, of course, yes. So I have the note from my grandma. She bought this in 1950 with green stamps. And it's kind of scuffed up, but it's pretty. And it has a drawer. And would this not be the bestest under the bed box? It has a drawer that doesn't want to slide back in. There's only one thing stopping me. It's full of silverware. And I took out like half the silverware so that I could lift this thing and hold it up and show it to you. And we're going to pause for a moment while I wrestle this drawer back into place so I can finish telling you my thoughts. Okay, we're going to take the drawer completely out. So the problem is it's got silverware in it. I am very sure that I could pry this centerpiece out, and if prying the centerpiece out hurts the felt, I could put more felt in it. And would it be a crime to move Grandma's Oneida Colony flatware that she got with green stamps in 1950 into another container so that I could use this to keep my stitching in? I am very sure that if Grandma was still living, she would give me her blessing. I don't know what other family members would think about this plan, and you know, I don't know if I care. There is another box full of silverware that I think came from my other grandmother. So everybody who wants silverware has silverware. I'm never going to use this silverware. I am only keeping it because it was Grandma's, and maybe one of the boys will grow up and want silverware, and hey, they can have silverware. I'll keep the box. That'll work. I'm not deciding today. I'm gonna think about it, and I'm not taking the silverware out until I find a better way and place to store it, and quite possibly that could be one of my vintage train cases or something. Let me know. Do you think that it would be a crime to steal the box and put the silverware somewhere else? And like I said, no one. I don't think in my lifetime I have ever seen this silverware used. Nobody cares about it. I will keep it because, like I said, maybe one of the boys will want it. It doesn't do any good to get rid of it. And it's Oneida flatware, so I don't even know if this is silverware. And to add, I'm sorry, it's ugly. I don't like the pattern. Grandma and I have kind of a history of disputes about silverware. So when my husband and I were first married, there was a set that I fell in love with. And this was not fancy silverware. This was like a go buy it at Walmart silverware. And she told me I couldn't have it because it was too expensive, and bought us some really ugly silverware that then I quietly exchanged the big set she got us for a 4-place setting piece of the one I wanted. And years and years later, at one of the thrift stores, I found a complete set of the stuff that I loved. And since then, I have found more at estate sales, so I could take out her ugly stuff and put in my pretty stuff. Except I think I'd rather have cross-stitch in it. And like I said, I am seriously the only one who cares. Let me know, what would you do? This poor thing is just, it's also all banged up and has like drink rings on it. Who did that? Not me. Not Alex. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to me babble about boxes and books and silverware. And I am so excited with my stitching right now. I'm going to go do more of it. I've got lots more stuff to show you. I had nothing for content, and then today everything just kind of fell together, and now there's stuff. And of course all the stitching fell together over the course of the last week. And oh, and I've read different thrift store, different day. Went in, was walking out empty-handed, and the lady asked me what I was looking for, and I told her old sewing stuff. Up at the cash register, she had these little tiny baggies of old wooden spools for 35 cents, and then they were half price. Oh, this is the 50-cent one. Some were 50 cents, some were 35 cents, and they were half price. And I almost didn't get them because I don't like the colors of the thread, but I have an idea for these. I have 7 or 8 or 10 or 12 ideas for these. So that's going to happen, probably not today. Thank you for watching. I am Michelle from Michelle's Romantic Tangle, and I have babbled at you for longer than I usually babble in a Flosstube video, and I will be back with you with more fun stuff soon.